Right, football lovers, it is Finn here, and of course, welcome back to my channel as usual, where in today's video, I'm going to be giving you one Afcon 2021 player that I think your Premier League club should buy. Now, of course, we're coming to the end of the transfer window, and as we know, Africa has always been full of some top quality footballing ability. Obviously, the African Cup of Nations is going on. We've been able to see that African quality. So in today's video, we're going to be looking at every Premier League club, all 20 clubs, and I'm going to be naming one African Cup of Nations player that I think your club needs to buy.
Shut up and take my money!
Now, of course, as I said, 20 Premier League clubs. This video could be quite lengthy if I don't hurry up a tiny bit. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So we're going to be starting off with Aston Villa. Now, of course, Stevie G, in terms of his transfers so far, he has not slipped quite yet. In fact, Aston Villa are looking really strong at the moment, and it's hard to pick a weak point for them. But if I had to choose anything, I would say that they could improve defensively, and I've gone for a centre-back option in the likes of Abdou Diallo, the young Senegalese centre-back who has helped Senegal keep 4 clean sheets throughout this tournament so far. He's been a brilliant young option. I can just see with his pace and distribution ability really fitting into this Aston Villa team, and at the moment at PSG, having competition like Marquinhos, Kompempe and Sergio Ramos in those positions, I just think he's going to get a lot more game time if he moves to the Premier League. Team number 2 is going to be Arsenal. Now, obviously, looking at Arsenal, I feel like they've got quite a few weak points in their team, but they've also got a lot of strength in their team. But if I had to say that they had to improve somewhere, it would be the striker position. Obviously, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, their current African striker, hasn't performed in a while, and now he's kind of struggling with heart problems, unfortunately. And their other striker option is Lacazette, who once again isn't performing to his full abilities. So the striker option I've gone for is going to be Moroccan striker En-nesyri from Sevilla. Obviously scored a really good goal for Morocco so far this competition, was one of the top goal scorers in La Liga last season. I just think he's one of those really fast, technically good strikers that would fit Arsenal's system. He's got the ability to run into the box, make forward moving runs. I think he's a brilliant striker option for his club, and I think that he'll just really suit Premier League football, especially under Arsenal. Brentford is next. Now, this is a really tricky one because this is Brentford's first ever season in the Premier League, and they are 14th place on the Premier League table. I almost don't want to make any improvements to this club, but once again, if I had to, maybe it would be the centre-back position, as Brentford have one of the weakest defences in the league so far this season, and the centre-back I've gone for is going to be Cape Verde centre-back Roberto Lopez. Now, although Cape Verde already knocked out of the African Cup of Nations, Roberto Lopez, once again, just a really good-looking centre-back with a lot of pace on him. I would say was one of the best centre-backs during the group stage phases, one of those players that kind of went under the radar. But when you look at him, his technical ability, his composure, once again, I think that he possibly could play Premier League football, and if he could help a team like Brentford out, even better so. I think that Roberto Lopez definitely a player to keep your eyes out for. Moving on to the Seagulls, also known as Brighton, I guess. Now, I've always really admired this team. I think defensively, they've got a super solid team. Attacking-wise, they've got brilliant players. They've got some decent midfielders there, but I definitely feel like maybe they could improve there. And that's why I've gone for the likes of Ibrahim Sangera, obviously the Ivory Coast defensive midfielder, obviously playing for PSV in the Eredivisie at the moment. Defensively, a really solid defensive midfielder. I can see him make a top move one day. And in terms of moving forward, a goal and an assist at the African Cup of Nations, I feel like he can just do the whole role, from an attacking ability, defensive ability, a really decent midfielder, and as we know, with his physicality, I think that he could play in the Premier League. And moving to a team like Brighton, who's doing relatively well this season, has a relatively good squad, I think he could just boost Brighton to their next level. Next up is going to be Burnley, and this is a really tricky one because Burnley are almost destined to be relegated at the end of the season. So looking at a player that they could buy, it realistically has to be a player that is almost willing to go down in the Premier League, but at the same time could help Burnley come back into the Premier League next season. Now, the player I've gone for, it might be slightly controversial, but I've gone for Vincent Aboubakar, the top goal scorer at the moment in the African Cup of Nations. 6 goals in 4 games. He's been prolific absolutely everywhere he's gone, whether he's played in Turkey, whether he's played in the Middle East. I mean, he's just been brilliant for club and country for a very long time, and one of the most underrated strikers in the world, in my opinion. I feel like maybe he could play at a higher level than Burnley.
Ooh, you're hard, showing off.
Currently 30 years old, so I don't feel like too many top clubs are going to want to make a bid for him. Therefore, I feel like if he wants to move to the Premier League, have a bit of a challenge, I feel like Burnley could be the club for him. As I said, he's won things everywhere, and I just feel like this could be a new challenge for him, and I think he fits Burnley's playing style. As we know, a very big, very physical player, has the ability to header, has the ability to boss defenders off of him. I just think Abubakar was almost made for Burnley. Next up, we've got last season's Champions League winners in terms of Chelsea. Now, how on earth do you improve Chelsea? It's like trying to say, oh, how on earth do we improve this Lamborghini? I mean, you just can't. In terms of Chelsea, they've got pretty much the best player in the world in every single position. In terms of their squad depth, once again, they are magnificent, and it is so hard to say where Chelsea should improve. But if I had to go for anyone, I've gone for the likes of Edmund Topsoba, the Bayer Leverkusen centre-back, obviously playing for Burkina Faso, has done really well at the African Cup of Nations. Now, yes, I know Chelsea is full of brilliant centre-back options, but obviously Chelsea play a 3 centre-back system. Therefore, it's easier to rotate centre-backs. If they get a new one in, obviously Topsoba is still in the early sides of 20s. He's got a bright future ahead of them. And as we know, Chelsea with a few older centre-backs in their squad, having a young centre-back in your system could never really fail you. And Topsoba definitely, in my opinion, been one of the best centre-backs this tournament. And I just think Chelsea is the correct move for him. Next up, we've got Crystal Palace. Now, of course, Crystal Palace, although not a team fighting for a European spot at the moment, once again, brilliant players all over the pitch, and it's so hard to say where they should improve. Obviously, I think a key point for them is the fact that Conor Gallagher would probably leave at the end of the season. But in terms of the meantime, I've gone for the likes of Kesse in the centre-back position. Once again, a really brilliant centre-back option, playing for the Senegalese national team, playing his football in Greece at the moment, and it hasn't necessarily been a regular in the Senegalese national team. Obviously, with the likes of Koulibaly and Abdou Diallo, it's hard to get game time. But saying that, because he's not a regular in the Senegalese team and he's still a really brilliant centre-back option, I feel like Crystal Palace could get him for slightly cheaper, and already having so many brilliant African players within their squad, once again, I just feel like he would fit in just so easily. We then move on to the Toffees, also known as Everton, and I've gone for the likes of Ghislaine Cannon. I think that's how you pronounce it.
No.
The Ivory Coast left back. Now, obviously, a huge talking point for Everton is they've just lost the likes of Lucas Digne, one of the best left backs in the world, and that is obviously going to form a huge hole in their team, a huge French-shaped, brilliant left back hole in their defense. And obviously, looking at Cannon, he has definitely impressed me so far in the African Cup of Nations in terms of moving forward with pace and still being able to distribute the ball, being able to move with pace and still win tackles. I think Cannon has been one of the best left backs so far this tournament, and I think he'll do a reasonably good job at Everton. Leeds United is next, and it's ironic that they play a form of football called murder ball, because their defense is beyond dead at this point in time.
Nice.
Therefore, I have gone for a centre-back option for Leeds United in terms of Ivory Coast centre-back Eric Bailly. Now, as a Manchester United fan myself, I can say that he is an absolutely brilliant centre-back on his day. He's very physical. He's quite acrobatic. I think that he is almost the perfect athlete. I think Eric Bailly is a brilliant centre-back, but unfortunately, with the competition at Manchester United, won't get game time, and I think he should follow Daniel James to Leeds United, because I definitely think that he can improve his football there, he can improve his fitness, and I just think, I think it would help both parties out. Moving on to the Foxes, Leicester City, it is going to be the first player I mentioned in this video for the second time, as it is also going to be Abdou Diallo. Obviously, I mentioned Abdou Diallo for Aston Villa. Once again, as I said, he's an absolutely brilliant centre-back. He's still very young, got a lot of experience with him. And looking at Leicester City at the moment, although they've got so many centre-back options, they seem to really struggle with injury in that position. They've really been struggling with form in that position. Leicester City just haven't had a great season overall at the end of the day. They've been known to have some brilliant African players in their squad over the years, and I think Abdou Diallo once again got a bright future ahead of him. I think he can only help a team like Leicester City out. We then move on to the Red Giants, as it is going to be Liverpool next, and they're once again a really tricky team because they've just got brilliant players absolutely everywhere on the pitch. They've got such a plethora of depth in their squad, but with Mo Salah possibly not renewing his contract by the time it runs out, because there have been talks about that, Liverpool eventually, I'm sorry Liverpool fans, I know you might not believe this, but you do have to look at replacing Mo Salah one day.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
And I've gone for the likes of Ismaila Sarr, obviously Sadio Mane's teammate for Senegal, obviously a brilliant young winger. Hasn't played at Afcon 2021 yet, but it looks like he has been just reintroduced into the squad due to 1 or 2 injuries. Once again, we know Sarr's ability. We knew how absolutely brilliant he was in the championship last season. Once again, only 23 years old, rapid with pace, and I think him learning under Sadio Mane at Liverpool, having that winger partnership, it can only be deadly to opposition. From one title contending team to another, it is going to be Manchester City next, and this might be one of the hardest teams to do in this entire list because, as we know, Manchester City is one of those teams that's got the best player in the entire world in every position, and in terms of their backups, those are the second best players in the entire world in those positions. So to kind of look at where Manchester City could improve, it was tricky, but I've gone for a player who used to play for Man City before in the likes of Kelechi Iheanacho. Now, yes, please do let me end up explaining this one. I have put him in there as a second choice or as a bench option, not necessarily as a starter option. As we know, the Nigerian striker for many years at Leicester City has definitely improved over the years, has proved that he can be a really good goal scorer. I do feel like he would really fit this Manchester City team now that he's matured and grown up a bit. I feel like he's learned a lot over the years, but I definitely think at least coming off of the bench for someone like a Gabriel Jesus or a Phil Foden or whoever ends up playing in that false 9 position. Once again, I wouldn't necessarily start Iheanacho in this team, but it's just so hard to come up with a starter for one of the best teams in the world. From the blue side of Manchester, we now move on to the red side, my team, Manchester United. Now, obviously, there are going to be talks about United improving their midfield. We've been linked to the likes of En-nesyri and Basuma over the last few years. But so far this season, what I've realized is maybe one of the weakest points for us is our left wing side. And that is why I've gone for Nigerian winger Moses Simon. Obviously plays for Nantes in the French league. And I mean, talk about Moses parting the Red Sea. I think that he should join the red team. You see,
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
Moses has been absolutely brilliant for Nigeria throughout the tournaments. It's unfortunate that the Super Eagles ended up getting knocked out, but it is no doubt in my mind that Moses will make a big move very soon in terms of goals and assists for club and country this season. He's been almost second to none, and to join a big team like Manchester United, I think that would be ideal for absolutely everyone. From one of the biggest clubs in English football history to the richest club in the world, still can't believe I'm saying that, but it is Newcastle United. Now, Newcastle United can theoretically buy absolutely anyone in the entire world at this point, which is why I've only gone for one of the best centre-backs of all time, with the likes of Koulibaly, the Senegalese centre-back. As we know, his nickname is literally The Wall. I know that does have to mean something, right? As we know, being one of the most solid centre-backs in the world, before Virgil van Dijk was around, him and Sergio Ramos was fighting for the best centre-back in the world kind of title. As we know, Koulibaly, one of the best centre-backs for many years now, and although maybe the price tag previously would have been in question for me, obviously Koulibaly coming towards the later stages of his career, he's been at Napoli for so long, might be looking for a new journey, and as we know, Newcastle United should be able to afford him, so I just don't see why not. Norwich City is next. Now, once again, in terms of improving, a relatively difficult team because it looks like Norwich could get relegated this season. Although they haven't been performing well this season, I still think that they've got an absolutely brilliant team. I think they've got so many world-class everyone on the team. They just don't seem to be working well together, which is obviously a major problem.
No way!
But if I had to improve one player or one position on the pitch, I've gone for the goalkeeper position. Don't get me wrong, I think Tim Krul has been a brilliant goalkeeper for many years, heavily underrated. But obviously getting towards the later stages of his career, I do think that Norwich do need to get a younger goalkeeper. And I've gone for the likes of Mohamed Kamara, the Sierra Leone goalkeeper. As we know, one of the heroes of Afcon 2021 was the player of the match, the man of the match versus Algeria. As we know, an absolutely excellent goalkeeper throughout the tournament, and this man deserves Premier League football. Only 22 years old at the moment, has already showed so much promise. I mean, if someone doesn't buy this guy soon, I might have to punch someone. What a brilliant young goalkeeper. Southampton is next, and once again, I mean, I have to mention the likes of Mohamed Kamara. I've literally just mentioned him, but what a brilliant young goalkeeper. This boy deserves to have his name somewhere. What a brilliant tournament he ended up having. having. But obviously looking at Southampton, once again, a lot like Norwich, I feel like they haven't been performing super well, but they've still got brilliant players in their squad, saying that Southampton have definitely picked up the necessary points to stay far away from the relegation zone. I think they've got brilliant players absolutely everywhere. I think Forster's been a really good goalkeeper so far this season. But once again, just in terms of moving forward, I think Kamara is the way.
Okay, now for some reason I forgot to mention the likes of Tottenham Hotspurs. I've got no idea how that happened. Once again, I promise you I am professional. Well, at least I try to be from time to time. It appears not quite yet. But for Tottenham Hotspurs, I definitely feel like they could use another defensive midfielder, but it just has to be another centre-back, a position where they've struggled with injuries for a while now, or at least a major lack of quality. And the player I've gone for is going to be someone I've mentioned before in the likes of Tapsoba. Once again, the Burkina Faso centre-back, young, very, very promising, and he is guaranteed to start for Tottenham Hotspurs.
We then move on to a club that has been seriously struggling this season, a team that might go down but is so full of brilliant African players in terms of Watford. Now, as we know, Watford have like 6 or 7 Nigerian players. They've got Ismaili Sarr, who I mentioned earlier. They've got brilliant players everywhere in their squad, especially from Africa. But as we know, they've struggled this season. Claudio Ranieri, their manager, has just been sacked. Watford are not in a good place at the moment. But saying that, looking at their team, they've got really good players. It's just a matter of the team not working well together or even having unlucky results from time to time. But the player that I've decided to go for is going to be the likes of Collins Faye, the Cameroonian right back. Once again, I think that Watford have an absolutely brilliant team. They just bought the Ivory Coast left back in the likes of Kamara. Once again, I think Watford look really, really good. It's hard to say what the problem is at the moment. But in terms of a right back, Collins Faye, obviously 2 assists for Cameroon so far this tournament from a right back position. That's very, very impressive. And I think that he could really help Watford out of this rut at the moment. We then move on to the Irons next, the second last team I will be talking about. And once again, how on earth do you improve West Ham United? They've got brilliant players everywhere. They've got brilliant squad depth so far this season. But I've gone for the Cameroonian Tucker Ekambi. As we know, can play as a left winger, can play as a striker. That's kind of why I've chosen him, because of his versatility. One of the top goal contributors in the French league for Olympique Lyon this season. Has been really, really good at the African Cup of Nations. 29 years old, might be looking for a new adventure in his career. As we know, a very physical, very fast player, and I've kind of put him as a reserve striker option in case anything happens to Antonio, or even putting him on that left wing side, because at the moment the right hand side is absolutely untouchable with Jared Bowen. Therefore, I just think adding a player like Ekambi, his kind of quality onto the team, I think that would add a world of difference to a team that is trying to qualify for Champions League football. And that, ladies and gentlemen, takes us to our final team, which is going to be Wolverhampton Wanderers, who once again, it is going to be a player that I have mentioned before in the likes of Sangara, obviously for Brighton. Once again, I don't know if I'm pronouncing any of these names correctly, but as I said, Sangara, a really, really good defensive midfielder, does the dirty work at the back. Sorry, that's not exactly how I meant to word that, but also has the ability to go up on the attacking front and contribute in terms of goals. I feel like that really does add to Wolves' system, the way that they play football with Ruben Neves and Matinho. I just feel like Sangero would really fit this Wolverhampton team really, really well, and I just don't see why it wouldn't be a good option. As I said, a very good, very physical player, and it's just ready for the Premier League. But that, ladies and gentlemen, will be it for today's video, where I've named an Afcon player to go to each Premier League club. I hope that you have enjoyed it. Yes, I know it was quite a fast-paced video. I didn't want to spend too long on it. I didn't want you guys to get bored or anything, but I hope that you guys have ended up enjoying this video. If you have, please make sure to subscribe down below. As I said, the support on this channel has been crazy as of late. By the time this video comes out, we could be on 3,000 subscribers, which I can only thank you so much for. But guys, thank you so much for your support. Subscribe if you are new and hit the like button down below. Can we please get this video to 20 likes? I'd really appreciate it. But I want you to tell me in the comment section down below, what team do you support and what Afcon player would you sign? Ladies and gents, this has been Finn, FYNN. Cheers.